Well, hey there, it's Brian Burns, and welcome to this episode of the Brutal Truth About Sales and Selling podcast. Today, I'm glad to have Chad back on the horn here. We're going to be talking about how do you practice and get better at sales. It is one of those things that's hard to do because most of the things that we talk about, role-playing, talking in front of the mirror, videotaping yourself, are things that we all know they work, but do we do them? So what other ways can you do? We're going to be brainstorming. I'm going to be sharing kind of the things that I use and just getting the things out of your head, down on paper, analyzing them, getting feedback from other people because we cannot see everything. We assume that we are really polished and that things are a lot easier than they are. And we very rarely go into situations and don't get caught a little off balance, a little bit unprepared, because there's just so many things that can happen. We're selling to people. People are very different. All of this comes down to that we are performers, that each sales call, each interaction is a performance. We don't get much cred for what we've done in the past. It doesn't matter what school you went to, what you did last quarter. All that stuff is ancient history in our profession. So how do we kind of come up with a systemized way of doing this? So we'll get into it with Chad. At the end, I'll sum up where we are on the course and give you an update. I've also have 2 free courses at B2B Revenue. One is on LinkedIn profiles. Get your profile looking decent. I show you how to get around several of the bugs with the profile set up, how to get the right picture, the right title, all the basics. It's not a huge in-depth course, but it is a pretty good course for free. So that one you don't need any coupon code for. The other one is how I use nudge.ai for do all my prospecting. Basically find out what to talk to people about. One person says, why do I need that? It's like, well, they don't want to hear about you. I'll tell you that. They want to hear about what you can do for them. If you don't know what you can do for them and why they would need you and what they care about, what are you going to talk about? You're going to always default to you. So the coupon code for the course is the word nudge. It's list price $249. It's 0 with the coupon code. Just make sure you enter it correctly, and it zeroes out before you hit submit. Also, make sure you're checking out Discover.org. They've got some great content. And also, if you really need good, clean account data, that's the place to get it. Discover.org, it's got great stuff. Get your manager involved in that. What else? Let's get into this. Here's Chad. We're going to have a lot of fun on this. I got another one back to back with this, but I'm probably not going to drop it for another week. I hope your summer's going great. Listen up to the end where I'll be giving you an update on the courses and the changes going on. Also, I've got 2 openings I want to let you know about, and I'll fill you in on those at the end also. Hey, Chad, let's talk about how do you become good at sales and practice. Have you ever thought of this?
It's a common question, right? It's one of those skill sets that most people just think, well, there's no way I can practice. There's no way I can improve what I'm doing other than just doing it, which, all right, back in the day when people weren't as connected as you are today, maybe there were, more prospects or clients going around, so you could screw a couple up and you could, practice in the field kind of thing. These days, every move that you make digitally or socially or every call that you have, every contact that you have, it's one-time opportunity in some cases, and you've got to really be ready to do it. So practice is definitely something that I always am suggesting to our clients and to reps. And then, of course, you always get that, well, how do I do that?
Yeah. It is kind of hard because we are performers. We don't get commissioned on our credentials, right? We have to perform every day.
Right.
And nobody cares how well you did last quarter or last year.
Right.
You get that award maybe, and then it's like, what have you done for me lately?
Exactly.
And, what I see people doing wrong is they think knowledge is the king. And I don't think so.
No. You can know a whole bunch of things. Like, I can tell you need to be confident, and you have to have done your homework before you make a cold call to a C-level executive. And you could have all the knowledge on that company. You could have, done all of your homework. But if you haven't got the confidence to deliver it in the right way, that knowledge does you no good.
Yeah. And then you see, pretty much every training program I've been through, they do the role play, and that is helpful. I think it is the best way. The problem is everyone feels awkward, and it's like it requires another person. So
it does.
Maybe you have the blow up role play sales rep, the blow up customer,
funny, right? Like when you think about the way that I practiced pitches. Now, not necessarily selling as a total discipline, but like the pitch portion. Like, okay, we've got your attention. We've built some credibility because we demonstrated that we did our homework. We understand your business issue and what you're trying to accomplish. And now I want to show you how our solution is going to do that. I used to practice my pitches, and it sounds odd, but I used to practice them in the mirror.
Yeah.
And today, that's where it started. And today I practice it in front of my webcam and then play it back. Now, that can be just as awkward
and humbling.
And humbling because you go, well, hell, I don't look or sound as good as I thought I did. But
where'd Brad Pitt go, right?
Yeah. Wait, wow, I put on more weight than I thought on vacation. But I mean, it's that awareness, right? That awareness and the self-evaluation. There are so many tools out there to help you do that today. Not taking advantage of them, I think, really hurts your chances at, crushing your numbers consistently.
And that's it. We all have a 4K video camera in our pocket now, which, you think back 5 years ago, that was unthinkable.
Right.
And believe me, when I first went out on my own, I started on YouTube. And I started doing like little selfie 1 minute, 2 minute things about sales. And boy, was that humbling.
Oh, it's amazing. We do, when we work with clients in class, we do a voicemail exercise, and we're trying to teach them how to be, project the confidence, watch your words, be short, sweet, to the point. So we have them call each other.
Yeah.
And, go to a different corner of the room, call each other, leave a voicemail. Now let's play them for the room. And every time, at least once in class, I sound like that. Yeah. Is that what I sound like? It's like, yes, you need to do whatever you can to be aware of how you are presenting or being perceived.
Yeah.
And we've got, like I said, the camera in your pocket. I've got one staring me in the face here in the podcast studio. I mean, we've all got ways that we can do that. And I think then once you actually take the steps to do that, you have to have the presence of mind to accept your own critical feedback and that of others.
And that's it. And if you want free feedback, put it on YouTube. You'll get it.
Oh, yeah. The anonymity of net. You got to love it.
And even today, you can put it on LinkedIn and get immediate feedback.
Yeah.
Because they will not comment on the content. They'll comment on how you're looking, what are you doing, your haircut, everything.
Well, yeah, or the pool. Like there's one guy that does videos that I constantly see him in front of a pool.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm all for more, man on the street kind of stuff, but don't do it in front of a pool because now I'm thinking, where's that pool and why am I not in it? And I'm not listening to what you're saying.
Why are you
right?
not working? Yeah. But, I think the voicemail thing, that's pretty straightforward. I think, the pitch, although that is a little bit more involved because it's probably a good 20 minutes, right? That's an investment.
It is. But think about it. I mean, if you're depending on what the deal size is that you're selling, you get to a point. It depends on how you've structured your sales process. And I'm a firm believer you shouldn't be doing pitches until there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
Like we don't never walk in and just, show up and throw up, as we used to say. So if you've got a room of people or a conference call of people on a web share that are taking the time, you have to make sure that entire session, 20 minutes is what it may be, is as spellbinding as possible and delivered with confidence and delivered from their perspective, not yours. And that doesn't come naturally to a lot of people. It takes a lot of practice. We did a pitch for an NFL team that we closed a bunch of business with. And we had 7 of the C-suite operations people in the room when we went to do the pitch. And there was a team of us. There were three of us that were in that meeting. We did no less than 18 dry runs the 4 days leading up to that. Yeah. And from there, it was like we walked in the room and we were confident. We knew how to play off of each other. Who was going to ask, what questions, things like that. Who was going to handle what objections? Who was going to focus on what people? It's not just about the pitch itself, especially if there's multiple people involved. It's really thinking through that interaction, what you need to get out of it in total, but also how do you accomplish that with the individuals that are there from the prospect or customer or from your own team? Because everybody will have different skill levels, comfort levels at presenting that stuff, and one hole in the boat can sink it.
And that's it. And if you're not a, stand in front of the mirror person or even a video person, a lot of people aren't. A lot of salespeople are more write it down. But if you have a checklist, now you don't bring the checklist and put it on the desk when you're in front of somebody, but you have it, either, the initials, like I used to use the spin thing, and I'd spell it out at the top of each page before the meeting. Right. As a reminder to go through that sequence of questions. But I also planned my questions and really thought through them and practiced them in the car before I would walk in. And I had, little emotional anchors to my fingers: positive, relaxed, confident, aggressive. Positive, relaxed, confident, aggressive. Right? And I would do that on the drive over there, and I'd get into that flow state before I walked in. And I think even that, is that practice? Yeah, sure.
Well, I mean, that's just it. So if we're doing it right, like everybody knows, it's funny. Sales, training, coaching, mentoring, enablement, we all steal from each other because we all know the right things to do, right? It's not like somebody's coming up with, right? It's not knowledge. I mean, people are people. And so you want to have a conversation, but it isn't off the cuff, right? In sales, because you only get one shot often to make that first impression, to use a cliche, or to keep the sales process moving. If you haven't really thought through what information do I need to move this forward, what do I need to demonstrate, what value do I need to show them, if you're not thinking about your questions in advance, if you're not writing them down, you're leaving yourself, you're increasing the risk. And we can't do that anymore today because there are too many people out there that are looking to sell right behind you that maybe did the practice, that maybe thought about their questions, strategically choreographed their questions, so they played off of each other. That doesn't just happen. You have to do that. I had a guy that I used to work with. This is going back a ways. But before every phone call of 30 minutes or longer in duration, he would go into his office and he would map out on a whiteboard the flow. And he would put down, all right, at this point, I'm going to ask this question. These are the types of things I would expect to get. Here's where I want to put this insight. And then I want to give them, ask this question. And he would go through it 3 or 4 times. He'd map it out, tweak it, map it out, tweak it. And it was just part of his process. Guy also had a 79, 78% close rate because he put in the time. He was working far less accounts than some of the other guys, but the ones he worked, he knew if he did the practice, and this is a guy who'd been selling for 20 some odd years. If you put in the practice and you do the work, then it pays off. If you just want to walk in, show up and throw up, or think you're, hot shit and just be able to wing it, good luck.
Well, that's it. I had a manager who was great at rapport. That was his bag.
Yeah.
And he couldn't get out of that rapport part of the sales call. And the hour would go by. We'd catch up on the Braves. We'd catch up on all the sports teams, the kids. And then all of a sudden the hour's up. The prospect looks at their watch and goes, I got another meeting. I'll stay in touch with you guys. When we didn't talk about business.
Right. And
we didn't accomplish anything but reestablishing rapport or building rapport with the person. So we didn't have a sales call.
Yeah, we just sat down and caught up. Right?
Yeah. and that was not the objective of the meeting. That was part of the meeting. But and I think people get stuck or they skip that stage. And all of a sudden there's no structure. And before I brought him into my accounts, I'd always say, let's talk about what our objective is. Let's have a signal for when we move on to the next stage. I have a signal when you shut up and I talk, when I shut up and you talk.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a coordination, right? And I think the first step is, understanding what you're bringing to the equation and what you've got to work on, and asking, like I said, be in that frame of mind to accept your own analysis and be critical of yourself and accept feedback from others. But then understand, today everybody's selling in teams. So if you're not coordinated, man, you've been in those meetings where the teams like stepping on each other, and it just gets humorous, right? You ask a question and then somebody gives you an answer, and then you wait 10 minutes, you ask that same question, somebody else answers, it gives you a completely different answer. Right. And it's like by the time you get done, it's a comedy sketch. It's not a sales call. Yep. Then it's because that team didn't put the work in. It always amazed me, and this is one of the easiest things to do. If I schedule a meeting It's going to be an hour, and we're going to, have multiple people involved. The next thing I'm doing is scheduling, 2 days out or a day out time with everybody that's going to be in that meeting, 30 minutes or 40 minutes to run through. Here's the structure, right? Here are the hand signals. Here's the goal. Here's the objective. Here's what we need, right? You don't talk about this. You don't talk, especially if you've got executives in the room. Yeah. If you bring a CEO to your sales call, you have to warn them, don't talk about pricing. Please.
You have to give them an agenda.
Yeah. Or it's like, our job is to reduce risk in sales at every chance that we can. And if you're not managing it aggressively and getting everybody aligned and taking that role, it gives you an opportunity to practice. It gives you an opportunity to assess what the skill matrix of everybody that's going to be in the meeting looks like. But it also increases that confidence and that ability to walk in and make somebody trust you, build the credibility, and feel like they want to spend the money with you.
And that's it. How often does something rare go wrong? Whereas, this has never happened to me before.
Yeah.
Almost never, right?
Yeah.
After you've been selling for 5 years, it's like, what's going to go wrong. They're going to show up late. They're going to misunderstand what you do. They're going to ask for a proposal when they're not going to buy. Once you give them the proposal, they're going to go radio silent. You have it on the forecast. They have it in their email box. It's not going to go to procurement. All of these things repeat themselves over and over again. And I really kind of try and get reps to be in this prevention mindset, because all the questions I get are all repair questions. What do I do when I get stuck here? Not how do I prevent getting stuck here?
Right. It's because you remember, it's like I can always tell when I'm working with a client and so a rep will come up and they'll be like, hey, so we were doing this demo and I was wondering how you could help us make sure that the demos are tighter. And I just look at them and go, so your demo crapped the bed last time, huh? Yeah. I'm like, yeah. So, that happens. In fact, demos are dangerous for that very reason.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that. They're thinking about the thing that just happened to them rather than thinking 3 steps down the road of what do they need to do to get ahead of it. Right. And so it puts reps in a lot. And oftentimes I see them in what I would consider a reactive state rather than a proactive state. Right. And if you want to master selling, you need to get proactive.
It is a proactive profession, because once something gets in the ditch, getting it out. And in a lot of ways, I look at it, I had a sports car that got into a minor accident, but it bent the frame.
Oof.
And, the repair place says, it's fixed. It was never fixed. And, because bending metal back, trying to repair something is so hard, because, it's a very nice car, and it would always wobble at about 90 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And it was like, you try and talk to the insurance company, they go, what do you want us to do? They said they fixed it. And I go, you come drive it with me. But it's just an analogy that those deals, we know what's going to go wrong. And we don't want to prevent it because it's a lot of work. It's like dieting and eating right. And it's like kale does not taste good. French fries taste good, right?
Yeah, sometimes you got to eat the kale.
Sometimes you got to eat the kale. You got to take the vitamins. You got to brush your teeth. And it's like a lot of this is like, it's just not fun. But if you don't do it, you're going to get that radio silence, and they're all like, well, how do I get them back engaged again?
Right.
It's so much easier to not lose the engagement.
Yes, without a doubt. And that's part of it. Think about how often people are pinged today. Think about how many distractions they have, right? Or how many times in a meeting you see somebody messing with their phone, right? And it's like, if you aren't thinking ahead of all of the things we had. This was a new one for me about 3 or 4 years ago. I hadn't encountered it yet. We were going to a client site, and we'd been there, 4 times over the previous 6 or 7 months. We knew this conference room in and out. We knew the electronics. We knew the projector. We knew even the HVAC settings and all of that. And we walk in, and the woman at the desk says, "So I have to apologize." I said, "Well, apologize for what?" She said, "Well, we're doing some remodeling, and the left wall in the conference room is gone." I'm like, what? She's like, but we asked them to stop construction during your meeting. okay, well, that wall had the TV on it
Yeah.
and the audio. And she's like, yeah, we don't really have a way to fix that right now. So it was like, okay, I walked in and I lost a wall and all of my projection stuff, for the meeting, but we still had, we didn't have handouts or anything. We talked through it instead of showing them anything.
Yeah.
That's another thing I think reps need to be able to do is stop using slides as a crutch.
Right.
Oh. They use that. Oh, if I do my slides, then I'll be okay, and I'll just rely on that. Well, there are situations. Granted, they may be rare these days, but there are situations where you'll have more people show up for a meeting and sitting down and sharing your laptop screen with somebody's not going to work anymore. So, or you lose the entire wall that has the TV on it, the projector on it. So, be prepared to have the conversation with the visual aids and without the visual aids.
Yeah, and if you talk to anybody who's been able to engage the client during the discussion in a whiteboard session, the engagement just goes off the charts. And I always used to, start drawing and then purposely hand the marker to the person who seemed the brightest in the room, both the most engaged, and they'd get up and start drawing what they're doing today and where they want to go. And all of a sudden, it goes from a presentation to a real discussion, a consultation, a team effort to solve their problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The other point I got out of this, or I wanted to mention about becoming better at sales, is taking feedback.
So critical. Because so many people suck at it.
I had 2 reps once. One was naturally talented with a super high IQ, but could not take any kind of feedback, no matter how positively given. And then another rep who was probably a B player, but wanted to be an A player, but seeked it, asked for it, and, fought it a little bit, but would take it. And the difference, because I watched their whole career, it's like almost tenfold.
Well, I mean, that we have to stop. I have some CROs that we work with that call it the millennial effect. But it isn't just about millennials. Most people don't it's people. Most people don't like being critiqued. Now, some of it,
go figure.
Hey, look, 2 divorces. I'm just saying, but the reason you got to get to a point where in sales you can understand that it shouldn't be. Critiquing should not be personal. It is about making you aware of things you may not have been aware of. How many times do you say, do you stand up straight? Do you maintain eye contact long enough or too long and you're getting creepy? Are your words not clearly enunciated? Do you apparently not have command of, the business issue or the challenges that the businesses are trying to solve? Like, you have to have that because there are so many variables that go into selling today. There's no way one individual could look at themselves and be unbiased.
Yeah. I mean, even if you look at your own video and you pull it apart, somebody else is going to see stuff that you don't see.
Exactly.
And if you look at that as, hey, Chad, you're no good, as opposed to, oh, you're right. I did say actually or really or like, so many times it really interfered with the quality of what I said. Whatever it is.
I can still catch it. It's funny. I catch myself doing it. I guess the podcasting's made me a little bit more aware of it. But I mean, when we were selling, when I was just on the ground kind of selling stuff, it was always work on the work on, the speed at which you speak, depending upon the command of English your language has. But even today, doing the podcasts, I catch myself saying, I'll pick a word for a week, and that shows up in the podcast like 20 freaking times.
Yeah.
And today the word is exactly, I can hear it coming out of my mouth. Gosh, don't say that.
Yep. And Grammarly helped me with my writing, where I would say, I would write actually. And they would say that makes no sense, and they would underline and say, get rid of this. And I'm like, I say that all the time, and a lot of people say it all the time. And I learned it was nice that this AI type of spell checker, grammar checker could help me.
Well, and there's so many tools, and it's funny to me that people. And this is obviously a a passion point for me. It is amazing to me how many people think that poorly formatted, structured, worded, or delivered communication can still get the point across. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've had an executive point out, hey, we went with you because throughout the communication process it was all polished and we, the emails were clear, the plan was clear, and then they would show me these emails from some of our competition, and there'd be misspellings, half sentences that didn't go never ended. It was almost like they went back to revise and forgot to add the end of the sentence. And it's when I tell, the reps today, look, you really need to work on your writing. You need to work on your communication, and you need to be respectful of the people you're communicating with. You may think it's okay to get a text from your buddy that's like, LOL, smiley face, pile of poo. But I'm telling you, the CROs or the executives out there, there's a certain level of respect that comes with that position that you need to demonstrate. And that comes through not only the preparation, but the way that you communicate and how those things are formatted.
And that's it. I mean, if you can use plug in Grammarly, I have no affiliation with them, but that has saved my life.
Oh, the tools are amazing. Hell, Word's even gotten pretty good at it lately.
Yeah, and you can actually, I just used it, right? You can record all your calls and have them transcribed into English for, pennies on the dollar, and then put it into Grammarly to see what you're doing.
I love it. I haven't put those two together. Love it.
And if that's something that you want to do as a way of having someone else, a machine, tell you what you're doing, where it's completely doesn't know you, doesn't care about you. It's working off the facts.
Yeah, you can't get any more impersonal than that, right? It's either right or wrong.
Right. It's not like a YouTube hater that you just that's just picking on some, body feature of yours that annoys them. Or now on Instagram, when I've promoted a couple of my videos and somebody, will say, get out of my feed. And you're like, I didn't put it in your feed. Instagram put it in your feed. Have you seen many reps that are able to take feedback?
I would say probably 40%. 40% of
high. Yeah.
and that's high, but I'm especially those that let's say I've hired in the past, it's part of the interview process for me. I've got to figure out, can they take the feedback into coaching? And not only that, but from a coaching or a manager standpoint, are they comfortable giving me feedback? Because I understand that, some people like to be coached in certain ways. And if you're not providing me feedback on the way I'm interacting with you, then we're not going to evolve the relationship and generate the results for the business. I would say 60% of, and I'm being really generous, audience, listen, we're just being really nice because I came back from vacation. 60% of people, the minute you say the word feedback, they break out in a cold sweat. And I would say of those 40%, really only 15% actually will take it and make any changes, if that many.
And if you look at, the 10,000 hour rule, that 10,000 hours is not just doing it. It's doing it and getting feedback and asking for it and applying it. And I always reference the documentary on Showtime about the tennis coach down in Florida. I'm trying to remember his name. He had this tennis camp, and the tennis players died to get in there because he produced 9 out of the 10 tennis champs in the world. And it was just 16 hours a day of feedback. And, it was and now Agassi, who went there, will not talk to this guy.
Right.
And you're like, but he did take the feedback for a long time. And then there was just, some interpersonal thing that went on. That, when you get too close to each other sometimes in life. But, every sales manager that I interview, that's in the top 3 of what they're looking for.
Yes. Well, and that it speaks to the level of character of the person. So some people can accept the feedback. All right, let's break them down. So you got people that can't accept it, and they're, like I said, going to break out in a cold sweat. You got those that will listen, but as they're listening, they're debunking the feedback. They're no, he's not. That doesn't know what he's talking about. No, I didn't say that or do that. Then you've got this group that will take the feedback. They will truly listen to it, but then take no action. No corrective action. The ones that will take the feedback, make the corrective actions, and then come back and say, okay, did I correct for these things you told me last time? Keeping track of their own progression. Those are the, I don't like to use the word unicorns, but those are the ones that you're looking for that are going to be the most successful.
And if use a model like Tiger Woods, why did Tiger Woods become the greatest golfer of his generation? His dad was a golf coach.
Right. That's 24/7 coaching. How many people want that?
Yeah, that's a little much, but, but it worked.
Yeah. Well, and it's just, you can't do it alone anymore. Right. You just can't do it alone. Being a natural, relationship person, being able to build rapport isn't enough to do it anymore. Right. The sales is a discipline. And we see, I don't know if you're seeing it, but I've seen a lot of sales execs who overcomplicate their sales process, their compensation plans, all not in the service of the sales engine, but in the service of making sales complex enough as almost if in a way to validate its existence rather than pointing to the results. They just think, oh, well, simple's not going to convince my CFO why he's paying the commissions he's paying.
And that's, I look at my job as trying to simplify the complexity, not complexify the simple.
Right. Yeah. That's what I spend most of my days doing, is trying to strip out the crap that we don't need that gets in the way of a true, choreographed human interaction that moves to resolution of some problems. I don't need to fill out 100 different sheets of paper or diagram through workbook, the TAS workbooks. Actually, there's one sitting on my shelf right here, so I shouldn't say that. But the TAS workbooks, I'm not going to go through that. A sales rep is not going to do that these days. We're moving too fast. It needs to be simple. It can be simple. The ones that are going to be able to be successful in this kind of coming evolution of what we're going through today are those that invest the time in working not on acquiring more tools or, digital solutions, but working on themselves and making themselves better at the human components, strategy, the questioning, the interaction, the research, those types of things. That's what's going to be where the success is. And those are easier places to practice.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that. Chad's a great guy. And we have different views on practice, but everybody does. And the key thing is that you have to do it, whether it's just writing down in a notebook, having a whiteboard, visualizing every morning. It's not knowledge. I'm not talking about listening to podcasts. I'm not talking about reading books. That's all good. Then you basically have to do something. And then you have to get some feedback and then do it again and get that feedback, take that feedback and apply that feedback. If you miss that step, it's going to take 3 to 10 times longer. It is those people. And that story that I tell about having two people, one who craved feedback and the other who just would not take it. The one who was better was more skilled, more intelligent, could pick up things really fast, didn't go nearly as far, and ended up working for the other person. So it's kind of a tale of what happened. And his career was really limited by that because he didn't extend himself, because he couldn't take any kind of rejection, feedback, or reaction from people. Don't be that person. It is that person who can really just take a look at it and go, first, I'm not perfect. None of us are. Remember in school, we always got grades. And today we get grades. They're called the results that we get. And we can come up with all kinds of reasons why we're not getting the results we want, but it doesn't matter. All that matters is, are we getting it or not? And that's really what the courses are all about, is giving you both, not just the knowledge, not just the examples, not just the feedback on what you're doing, but hearing other people do it for a whole year. So it's like a year to take yourself to the next level. And the people who are getting the most of it are the people who are raising their hands saying, this is what I'm doing. It's all anonymous. There's no company names. There's no, it's salespeople anonymous. We call it SA. No, we're just joking. Nobody knows each other, right? So there's no accountability as far as anybody saying anything that's off the wall. No competitors, no product names, no company names, no even industry names for the most part. People are just trying to get meetings. They're trying to close deals. And the ones that are really getting it out of their head, putting it into some format, where they can get feedback. Because what we're finding is I can basically look at these things nowadays and just tell you, okay, let me guess, deals are getting stuck here. And they go, yeah, how'd you know that? I go, this is why. And what kind of problems do you run into? Well, I don't run into any problems. Okay, let's go through your pipeline. What's something there that you think should have closed 3 months ago that's not closed? We go through that. And we start digging in, and all of a sudden we surface things in the process. And I did a couple of these in the podcast that were kind of almost live coaching calls, where you get to kind of have somebody pull apart your deals and kind of shed light on what they think. Now, I might be completely wrong, but even if I just get you thinking about it, it's worthwhile. So check them all out. I got free ones, and there are some paid ones. I know, God forbid you part with your pennies. If you want to make commission, you got. And plus, if you pay, you're going to push yourself. You're going to push me. And I want people to push me. Every office hours, I'm begging people, come on, push me. If you're not flying in a private jet, I want to hear what you're running up against. Also, I do have 2 openings here at Maverick headquarters. You don't have to pay me too much. I'm willing to settle for like low 6 figures. No, I'm joking. Of course I'll pay. Yes, these are either part-time, minimum 20 hours. I'd like full-time. It's remote. You can work from your home or wherever you are. It's all online, no cold calling. It is mostly sales. Yeah, mostly sales. But I got a lot of other stuff that I need to do as far as networking and building up the Brutal Truth community here. And if they're kind of entry level, so if you're senior, I'm looking for people who are just either in B2C sales or want to get into B2B and are willing to take, it'll be a base plus bonus or commission. And I'm willing to work with you as far as what your talents are. But I really need to staff up here. And I'd like to get some people out of the SDR course, but they get jobs too fast. So if you're interested, email me or connect up with me at LinkedIn. Email is briangburns@me.com. Love to hear about what you'd like to do, and I'd be happy to fill you in. Looking to get something rolling probably in the September timeframe. I've got great plans for the fall. I want to make sure you're checking out the show notes. Connect up with me on LinkedIn. If you really like the show, please tell somebody. If you're busy, I get it. Just be on LinkedIn, hit my profile up, click on one of my pieces of content, give it a little thumbs up, a little comment that said, hey, I heard you on the podcast. I'd really appreciate. That's much more important than almost anything because it trickles down to your audience. Sending me an email and stuff, I appreciate it. But unless you're telling somebody else, I don't want to be a well-kept secret. I want to really rely on you because you're my sales team. And I really appreciate all the support. It's been 9 years, and I'm going to do an episode probably on what I've learned from doing a sales podcast for 9 years. But it's been fun. And I've got to meet and interview a lot of people, and I've got to know a lot of you, and hopefully we'll get another few 9 years out of me, and hopefully make you a ton of money this last half of the year. This is a critical next 4 months. I'm telling you, it is going to be a sprint, and I know the summers are brutal. Appreciate you listening. Thanks, and check out the show notes. Make sure you're connecting up with Pipedrive. Use the Brutal Truth coupon code when you sign up for Pipedrive. Get a full month free, as well as with Nudge. You get the professional version with the Brutal Truth, all one word. Just try it out, see if it works for you. It's really saved me probably 2 or 3 hours a day and given me a lot of ideas. And in the course, I show you how to leverage those ideas into conversations. So thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.